Okay. Yes, I can hear you. पहले ब्रेकिंग है या इंट्रोड्यूस करने या नॉर्मल डायरेक्टली ब्रेकिंग में जाना है? ओके ओके फाइन फाइन. Hello and welcome. You're watching India Today, and today it's a very important day as the new parliament is being inaugurated. But it's at the backdrop of the restless protest. It's already 11 and this is the call time that was given by the wrestlers to march towards the parliament, and there's a breaking that is coming in about the security beef up that's happened ahead of that. Now, security has increased because the wrestler had given a call at 11 to march towards the parliament, and to ensure that nothing untoward happened, the Delhi police has ensured heavy security beef up in the Jantar Mantar region, and that's exactly the visuals that you can see on our screens right now. And the special commissioner is also speaking to the media. He's trying to address the media. We'll just try and see that what he's actually have to say.
आज नए संसद भवन का उद्घाटन समारोह है. ये हमारे राष्ट्र के लिए बहुत महत्वपूर्ण दिन है और बहुत गर्व की बात है. इस उपलक्ष्य में इस मौके पे किसी भी तरह का धरना प्रदर्शन राष्ट्र विरोधी बात है. दिल्ली पुलिस की समुचित पर्याप्त व्यवस्था है कानून व्यवस्था को बरकरार रखने के लिए पूरे दिल्ली में, और खास करके तमाम जो स्ट्रेटेजिक लोकेशंस हैं वहां पर. और किसी भी हालत में दिल्ली पुलिस इसमें चूक नहीं होने देगी और हम सब इसके लिए यहां मुस्तैद हैं. जो हमारे खिलाड़ी हैं इनके प्रति हमारा बहुत हृदय से आदर और सम्मान है. लेकिन आज जो न्यू पार्लियामेंट बिल्डिंग का इनॉग्रेशन है उसके उपलक्ष्य में किसी भी तरह की विघ्न या बाधा अगर उत्पन्न करने की बात आती है उसको हम बहुत ही पोलाइट और फर्म और इफेक्टिव तरीके से रोकेंगे. ये किसी भी सूरत में इसको हम नहीं होने देंगे. तो जो हमारे आदरणीय और सम्मानीय खिलाड़ी हैं, जो हमारे देश की शान हैं, उनसे भी हमारी गुजारिश है, हमारा रिक्वेस्ट है कि आज के इस उपलक्ष्य पे किसी भी तरह की इस तरह का काम, इस तरह का कोई राष्ट्र विरोधी बात जो है वो ना करें, ना बोलें, ना इसको करें. अभी जो सोशल मीडिया के जरिए जो एक प्रेस ब्रीफिंग जो देखा गया है उससे जो बात सामने आई है उसके रेस्पॉन्स में मैं ये बात कह रहा हूं. और अंत में एक बार फिर कि ये बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण और बहुत ही पुण्य का दिन है जिसमें आज नए संसद भवन का उद्घाटन आज हमारे देश में हो रहा है. ये हमारे लिए बहुत शान, बहुत गर्व की बात है. और इस उपलक्ष्य में किसी भी तरह का राष्ट्र विरोधी न तो बात न तो कार्य करने की जरूरत है. बहरहाल जो एक प्रोफेशनल पेशेवर पुलिस का जो तरीका होता है ये हम अपनाते हुए विथ एक्सट्रीम पोलाइटनेस, फर्मनेस, बट इन ए वेरी इफेक्टिव मैनर हम इस कानून व्यवस्था को बरकरार रखेंगे और इसको हम मेंटेन करेंगे. धन्यवाद. थैंक यू.
That was the Special Commissioner Law and Order, Dipendra Pathak. He was addressing the media, and he has also made an appeal to the protesters to ensure that they do not resort to any untoward practice that actually can bring the image of the country in a bad light. He's again reiterated that if at all the protesters from this very enclosure in Jantar Mantar tries to move forward and march to the parliament, they will not be allowed the same, and the Delhi police will stop them. He said that this will be done in a polite manner, but in no way the protesters will be allowed, and that's exactly the kind of visuals that you see over here. There is heavy security deployment at Jantar Mantar. There is RAF that's deployed, Delhi police security personals on the ground, the DCP of the New Delhi district, he's over here. We see the special commissioners also deployed in the ground. So definitely this is somewhere down the line a tight security measure that is being taken by Delhi police. They are seeing that no way this situation can actually be stopped, and that's what you right now see as the protesters have given a call. We are already at 11:07, but till now we are not seeing any movement from the protesters side over here, and clearly the visuals itself speak of the entire protocol that has been devised by the Delhi police. And as you see, okay, and we will toss to Preeti Chaudhary. She's joining with us right now in the broadcast. Preeti, if you can hear me, today the parliament is being inaugurated, and at the backdrop we see the protesters, the wrestlers rather, they've given a call for a protest march to the parliament. No way we can see that they can actually escape the security, but what do you have to say? That the protesters have a legit demand that they want action against Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh. He also will be present inside the parliament today, Preeti, and despite so, the protest is not going to happen. But what do you have to say about this entire thing?
You know, Shreya, if you look at it, and we are giving our viewers a full vantage position from each point where the farmers, in terms of the women who are attached to the panchayats, are streaming in. There seems to be a sense of frustration and desperation that is set in where the farmers are concerned, where the wrestlers are concerned. And, you know, for a very long point, you really cannot blame the wrestlers, because for them, they are saying that they've sat here for 35 days. So they have their point of view. Of course, it's a big day wherein they're coming together to celebrate the proverbial symbol or the temple of democracy, the inauguration of the new parliament. But on the contrary, if you do look at what the wrestlers have been demanding, it's been 35 days. You know, if we are celebrating the spirit of India, and if we are celebrating democracy of everything that India stands for, its ethos, its fabric, then this fabric is woven by the likes of Sakshi Malik and Vinesh Fogart, Bajrang Punia. That is what the wrestlers insist. And for them, it really does seem that today was a day for them to push forward with what has been their now demands, which is crossed 35 days where they've been sitting in protest, Shreya. And they see this as an opportune moment to at least put the spotlight on their protest. Now, there are not just wrestlers who are protesting. They have been, a coordinate. This is what was to take place today, if our viewers can understand, was a coordinated pressure group which would have come together. We were expecting, right now, of course, 11 o'clock was the call where all of them started to move towards Jantar Mantar and from there towards the new parliament. But with what we've seen since yesterday, there have been detentions, of farm leaders. There have been detentions of women panchayat heads. There have been detentions of, other wrestlers as well who were looking to come in and join the protest. We've seen what has gone down on our borders. All borders where Delhi is concerned have been sealed. And sealed in effect of not just a bandobast, but concrete blocks have been put on the border. Now, these optics as well are going out at a time where there would be a set which would say, why is it that the wrestlers would need to pick today, to push forward this Mahapanchayat and celebrate? For the wrestlers, their point of view is, listen, we've been 35 days, we won medals for you. We are, we've represented the country in Olympics in India. We've got you back Olympic medals there. So therefore, you haven't, listened to us for the last 35 days. They've been looking at an audience, hoping that they'd get an audience with, the WCD minister, Ms. Smriti Irani. They've written letters to all women ministers and leaders of the Bharatiya Janata Party. So one can see that, a sense of deep frustration that is set in where the farmers are concerned. And, what is now going to happen is the big question. Because where you're standing, Shreya, is Jantar Mantar. All the borders leading to Jantar Mantar in the national capital are sealed. Sealed not just with a mild bandobast, but sealed with concrete blocks. There is heavy barricading. We are seeing these visuals of spikes. We are seeing these visuals of water cannons. We are seeing these visuals of cops who are bearing tear gas shells. So if there is a push forward by the protesting groups, we can expect a peace talk. Now, you see these rapid action force personnel also that has been deployed in in massive in terms of just the kind of presence that we see of the security on ground. But Shreya, the fact is what to expect now is the big question. Will the wrestlers who are sitting there, we heard Sakshi Malik a short while ago where she said that a lot of these jathas basically are groups which are looking to join them, have been stopped or detained at the border. Now there is a cry for help from Delhi, all women of Delhi to come and march towards Jantar Mantar and, aid them in their protest. So, but it's a fortress. Delhi is a fortress. So clearly, the wrestlers have their hands behind their back. They are completely hemmed in where Jantar Mantar is concerned, where you are. Will they push forward? And if they push forward, what could be the result of that? One also needs to understand that now this movement, where the wrestlers are concerned, these are young girls. Bajrang Punya, these are all 25, 26, 28 year olds. So they are taking advice from what every press conference we've seen where they say are elders. So who are their elders here? A lot of Khap Panchayats have also come in at this point of time. You see a lot of farmers also joining in solidarity. That's why the visuals that you see are from a little Ambala. Those are the visuals where all the jantas or the blocks of protesters who are coming en masse towards Delhi to enter through the Singhu border. And Singhu border has been iconic in terms of protest where India is concerned, where the farm protest was concerned. And all of them have been stopped at various borders, be it Punjab, be it Delhi, be it Gazipur. You had Piquet, who was one of the farm leaders during the farm protest. He's also joined in. They are saying that they are going to push forward from the Gazipur border. But you heard the cops there, Shreya. The Delhi police is not going to take anything mildly. Yeah. They've said that they respect the farmers, but it's a big day in terms of the celebration of democracy. The wrestlers there, they've stopped the wrestlers. It's a big day in terms of celebration of democracy, and they will do what it takes to safeguard law and order. The wrestlers on their account have made it very clear, Shreya, through and through, that they will not, try and do anything which is unlawful. But if they try to push forward, what results from that, you'll be a better judge because you're on vacation there.
Well, Preeti, as you rightly pointed out, that Delhi has turned into a fortress. And if we get our viewers to the visuals here from Jantar Mantar in itself has been cordoned off in a way that it's not possible that the protesters can actually march forward. There is 3 levels of barricading that's only here inside the rim of the Jantar Mantar protest area. If you move forward, there are 4 more layers of barricading that's been done. There are RAF that's deployed on the ground. There is Delhi police personnel. We see all the top officials from Delhi police also there. Important to point out that there is also heavy frisking of the media that's being done today. We have seen that multiple media personnel who run YouTube channels, they were not allowed today, keeping the recent incidents in the light. There has been a massive security measure that's been taken forward by Delhi police. We know that New Delhi district in certain areas have been made into a controlled area. There is restriction of movement if you're not have a labelled vehicle, if you do not belong to emergency services, your movement will completely be restricted. At a situation like this, when the borders have been sealed, when Jantar Mantar is also somewhere down the line sealed today, it is near impossible for the wrestlers, Preeti, to move from here. And we will continue giving the visuals, but it's already going to be 11:15. We do not see any movement that's also taking place from the area where the protesters are seated. They are also seated over there, and we'll now also cut into the reactions that is coming in from the wrestlers who are protesting over there. Over to it.
साथ का जो समय दिया था 11:30 बजे का, हम यहाँ से अपना नई संसद की तरफ कूच करेंगे। और मैं एक रिक्वेस्ट और करूंगा पुलिस प्रशासन से कि हम शांतिपूर्वक जाएंगे, हमें परेशान ना किया जाए। हम भी इस देश के नागरिक हैं और जो हमारे लोग हैं, मैं उनसे भी अपील करूंगा कि हमें शांति बनाए रखना है। पुलिस चाहे बल का प्रयोग करे, चाहे लाठीचार्ज करे, कुछ भी करे, हमें शांति से आगे बढ़ना है।
आपकी बेटियों की मान सम्मान, आत्म सम्मान की लड़ाई है। और हम आपको ये भी कहना चाहते हैं कि एक्शन का कोई रिएक्शन नहीं देना है उग्र होके। एक्शन का एक ही रिएक्शन है, हाथ जोड़ देना। कोई भी आपके साथ में कुछ भी पुलिस करती है, सिर्फ आप हाथ जोड़ के आगे बढ़ना है। हाथ जोड़ना अहिंसा परमो धर्म हमने सीखा है, उस देश के हम वासी हैं, हम शांति से करेंगे, जितना भी करेंगे और शांति से बड़ा कोई दान नहीं है। हम प्रेम और के पुजारी हैं, प्रेम से आगे बढ़ेंगे, प्रेम से ही लड़ाई जीतेंगे। जुल्म करने वाले कितने जुल्म करेंगे पूरा देश देख रहा है और पूरे देश के माध्यम से पूरी दुनिया भी देखेगी।
आज 28 मई को हम नई संसद के सामने महिला सम्मान महापंचायत करेंगे और बस बार बार यही अपील करते हैं कि शांति पूर्वक हमें आगे बढ़ना है। 11:30 बजे हम यहाँ से जो है आगे बढ़ेंगे और जो बॉर्डरों पे रोके गए हैं या उससे भी पहले रोके गए हैं, उनसे भी यही कहना चाहूंगी कि आप शांतिपूर्वक आगे बढ़े, कोई भी हिंसा ना करें। पुलिस से भी मैं रिक्वेस्ट करना चाहूंगी, जो भी हमारे किसान नेता हैं, महिला संगठन जो हमारे सामान में यहाँ आ रहे थे, सबको डिटेन कर लिया गया है, जेल में डाल दिया गया है। तो एक तरफ तो नए संसद का उद्घाटन हो रहा है और दूसरी तरफ लोकतंत्र की हत्या की जा रही है।
Well, you know, there's a small update that we're getting right now from the ground as we stand in this particular area where security is being deployed. I'll just ask my cameraman to quickly point out at the rim where the protesters are seated. What we're getting an update that the protesters are about to leave. They are one by one gathering themselves, and any moment from now we will see the protesters attempting to leave Jantar Mantar and march towards. What will happen is something that we'll definitely have the visuals to play out for, but right now the update that is coming in, the wrestlers are starting to gather and they will shortly be leaving from their protest site and try to march forward. But looking at the kind of security arrangements that been put in place, it is next to impossible that they will be moving in from here. I'll take a short question from Preeti before we go back to the visuals. Preeti, today as the parliament is being inaugurated, we also know that Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh, who is an MP, he's also in all likelihood going to be present as a guest over there. Probably that's also one of the particular reasons why the protesters wanted to protest, but it's not going to happen. But somewhere down the line, can we really not say that this is a right, it's a part of their democratic right to actually protest about something that they've been demanding for quite a long time?
100%, Shreya, 100% with what you said. Because, let's look at it in the context. 3 days ago, you had a Vinesh Phogat. Like I said, these wrestlers have their back towards the wall. They are desperate. They are frustrated. It's been 35 days. And if you remember, we've all been tracking, Shreya, you've been there through the course of this protest. And every time you have seen them come out and, ask the government to step in, take action against Brij Bhushan Sharan. Mind you, Brij Bhushan Sharan, who is a BJP MP, is accused under a POCSO case. For someone who follows crime, you would understand that if there is a POCSO case against, any individual, yes, usually an arrest would have been imminent. It's not quite happened in this case. On the contrary, he's gone ahead, been more belligerent, and constantly tried to push forth with the wrestlers, saying that they're lying, that they're changing their story, that he's actually going to pressurize the government to change and amend the POCSO law. Having said that, 3 days ago, you had Vinesh Phogat, who sat in on a dharna there, which he's been continuing in a press conference, said that the true test of democracy would be laid if Brij Bhushan Sharan, will or will not attend the inauguration of the new parliament. He's an MP. Will he be there? That's the big question. And if he's there, it's something that, the likes of Vinesh, the likes of Sakshi have already said that, this is a man who's a POCSO accused. We are Olympians. We represent the country. Nobody is saying take their word for the gospel truth, Shreya. But follow the due protocol, due process of law. And what does it mean here? You know that better if somebody's booked under POCSO.
Yes. And Brijbhushan Sharan Singh is in Delhi, Preeti. So it's a matter of time when the second part of the entire event starts. We'll actually get to see that whether he's attended that the event or not. But we know that he is in Delhi. We'll have to wait and watch that whether he at all attends the event. But right now over here, we are expecting a movement anytime inside Jantar Mantar. The protesters, if I could, get the visuals a little clear, that the wrestlers, they have started gathering inside the place that they have been sitting for over 35 days now, and in a short while they will attempt to move forward. We do not see that there will be any possibility that they will be marching forward, because there is a tight level of security as we talk, because not just the borders have been sealed so that more protesters cannot join them. The Jantar Mantar in itself has been cordoned in a manner with at least 6 levels of barricading and 1,000 police personnel and RAF on the ground, that it's next to impossible for the protesters to actually march forward to the parliament. But their call was of 11. We're already at 11:23 and we're expecting some action on the ground. Important to point out also, as Preeti was talking about what the wrestlers' ordeal has been in this particular case. The wrestlers are also angry about the fact that, remember, even after filing the case, the recording of the 164 statements were also delayed. And even to get that done, they had to actually knock the court, and only after that the 164 statements were recorded. So the wrestlers are angry. They are sitting over here for now 35 days. They are expecting that there will be justice, and they say that they will not do anything untoward. They will not use force as they protest, but protesting is their democratic right too. But today the Delhi police is in no mood to allow anyone outside from Jantar Mantar. We heard the Special Commissioner very categorically put forward that they will not allow anyone to move forward from this particular area, and that's something that they will ensure that it does not happen. But he also said that he respects the protesters, but today is a day of the new parliament being inaugurated, and in no way they'll see that changes. So the Delhi police is already ensuring that the wrestlers cannot move ahead. And once again, you can see that the Indian flags, the wrestlers have already got up. They are inside that little enclosure that they've been sitting in, and any moment from now they will be marching forward from this particular area. And very clearly, we have seen that the kind of action that's happened on the ground with the protesters who have been trying to come and join them since there was a call for the Mahila Panchayat also. In no way that has happened because of the security that's been deployed on the ground. But will this march happen? We will have to wait for some time to see the visuals. But again, I'll go once again to Preeti. Preeti, as we were talking about Brijbhushan Sharan Singh, we know he is in Delhi today. If he in fact attends that event today, do you feel that that will also be a tool or an image that the protesters could use in their favor to rake up their protest? Because for some days we've been seeing that their protest has also fizzled down a little. So probably today, if Brijbhushan Sharan Singh actually attends that event inside the parliament, which will start from 12 onwards, will the protesters make that an issue? Do you see that happening, Preeti?
Shreya, I don't think it's just the wrestlers or the protesters who need to make that an issue. It's a shame that Brijbhushan Sharan is there today at the inauguration of the parliament. And why do I say that is? This is the man who was Foxo accused. And Foxo accused by some of our top Olympians and wrestlers. So in that context, Shreya, to see Brijbhushan Sharan there, while, you have one of the most marquee events in the country's history, where you're inaugurating the new parliament, is going to be appalling in terms of visuals. It will be very, very bad optics for the government as well, because then it would seem that the government is not just reasoning it out in terms of not, trying to negotiate and speak with these wrestlers, but also reasoning it out in terms of sheer optics, that here is a man who's Foxo accused of molesting an underage girl and 7 other, wrestlers where sexual harassment charges are concerned. Having said that, that man is still standing right next to the parliamentarians. when an iconic, historic, momentous occasion like this is recorded. And on the other hand, you have the cops who are standing right next to these wrestlers. And if these wrestlers start trying to push forward, then we can expect a bit of, there will be a confrontation. The wrestlers say they'll make it all peaceful. But having said that, if they start walking, either they will court detention, or on the other hand, there is going to be some sort of force that is going to be used to try and limit their movement. So if you put these two optics together, it doesn't augur really well in terms of sheer optics where the government is concerned. So yes, the wrestlers and the protesters definitely will use it to fuel their protest, because they've been saying that, there are people in the government, there are ministers who are trying to shield Brijbhushan Sharan, and this is all an attempt, to make sure that he gets away. The visuals that we are talking about, if they actually take place with Brijbhushan Sharan attending the mega parliament opening, will only feed into that narrative. And it is shameful. After all, away from the politics of it all, because ultimately...
Preeti, I'll have to cut you in
Go
between
ahead,
because the protesters have started moving, Preeti. The protesters have started moving. So the Delhi police attempted a dialogue with the protesters, but they have said that this is a peaceful protest and we will march forward. So there is action over here. The protesters, as they have marched from the enclosure, they've reached the first level of barricading over here. You can clearly see they're waving the Indian flag. Everyone's actually holding an Indian flag in their hand and they are trying to move forward. But clearly Delhi police is making an announcement over here. You can see Delhi police making an announcement over here that they should not be moving and marching forward. They are making a request. I'll ask my cameraman to quickly come and show the visuals. Yeah, you can see the Delhi police is also making an announcement again. But the protesters are somewhere down the line not in a mood to listen. They are attempting to move forward out of this enclosed area. There's a face-off between the protesters and the Delhi police. You can see the visuals clearly. This is a face-off between the protesters and the Delhi police. It's a very small exit also from Jantar Mantar, but scenes are not good. You can see protesters mounting up from the barricades and moving forward. Scenes are actually gone a little, out of hand. Delhi police also not being able to maintain the situation as of now. The protesters, the wrestlers, they have crossed the first level of barricading. They have crossed the first level of barricading and they are attempting to move forward. Delhi police is also trying that shouldn't be okay. They've crossed the second level of barricading. Another barricade has been removed from this place. The visuals that you can clearly see, protesters are not in the mood to listen to anyone. They are marching forward. Delhi police personnel on the ground trying to calm them down, but situations are clearly spiraling out of hand, as you can see. The DCP also is on his toes. He's trying to speak to the wrestlers. They're one by one. Okay, one of the protesters we see over here, they're detaining one of the protesters. Whoever has moved forward, the police is trying to catch them, but clearly this is where their athletic skills are also to be seen, Preeti. They are marching way forward and Delhi police is finding it a little difficult. Sakshi Malik has been detained. We can say Sakshi Malik has over here been taken by Delhi police personnel. You can see the visuals. Sakshi Malik trying to run. Okay, she's freed herself from the clutches of Delhi police. She's running forward. These are very disturbing visuals that we are getting to you. These are our national icons, and this is the kind of manner that they also have to resort to for their protest. You can see how Sakshi is also being stopped by Delhi police personnel on the ground. The visuals are very disturbing, as you can clearly see. Sakshi Malik over here. You can see now again the Delhi police have detained her. They are trying to take her in one of the buses that's been arranged in Jantar Mantar. Clearly things have spiraled out of hand. You can see that this is Delhi. Okay, Sakshi Malik is still trying to free herself. You can see situations on the ground. There are protesters. Other protesters are also being detained by the Delhi police. Bajrang Punia is also trying to march forward, free himself from the clutches of the police who is holding him. As I mentioned earlier, this is somewhere down the line difficult for Delhi police also, because these are athletes. Their strength is very difficult for the police also to manage, and we see over here that Bajrang Punia is also now marching forward. The Delhi police is requesting them to not move ahead. A group of protesters, at least 5 to 10 of them viewers with Bajrang Punia, they are now moving forward. We can also see Vinesh Fogart also there along with Bajrang. They're all moving forward, and Delhi police is requesting here. The DCP himself is trying to stop them and requesting them that they should not resort to this tactic, and this is something that is something they should be avoiding. But clearly the wrestlers are in no mood to listen. They have sat on the ground now. You can see Vinesh, Bajrang, they have embroiled in a fight with the Delhi police. This is a fight that has now started between the Delhi police and the protesters, where you clearly see the visuals on the ground. The protesters are in no way or in no mood trying to listen to what the Delhi police has to say. But clearly the Delhi police do not want them to move forward. They are again and again requesting them, and this is something that the Delhi police knew will be happening, and that's exactly why this amount of security measures were also put in place by the Delhi police. This is the protesters again. You can see over here clearly Vinesh, Bajrang, they are all trying to jump the barricade. You can see the visuals. Vinesh has jumped atop the barricade and she's moving ahead. Delhi police is finding it difficult to somewhere down the line stop the protesters. These are athletes of the country. They are also the nation's pride. Very sad in a way to see. We'll right now cut across to our reporter Nitin. He is also on the ground. Nitin, over to you. What do you see happening over there?
जो महिला पहलवान है, ऐलान की वजह से पुलिस ने साफ तौर पर मना कर दिया था कि कोई भी नहीं जाएगा। ये तस्वीर साक्षी, तस्वीरों में देखिए झड़प, साक्षी को चोट आई है और शायद वो ये कह रही है कि मेरा हाथ टूट गया है। साक्षी के मुंह से मुझे ये आवाज सुनने को मिल रही है कि शायद वो ये बार बार कह रही हैं कि उनके हाथ में चोट आई है।
अरे मैम हट जाओ ना, अरे मैडम हम लोग को कवर इसको करने दीजिए। ये बदतमीजी क्या है?
कहाँ पर, किस पे?
कैमरा चल रहा है, सब दिख रहा है, मीडिया को भी अलाउ कर सकते हैं आप। छोड़ दो सर, आप मीडिया को नहीं कर सकते।
धक्के मार रहे हैं इधर से।
ये क्या बदतमीजी है? आप मीडिया को कैसे ऐसे रोक सकते हो? आप लोग पागल हो गए हो? शर्म आती है आप लोगों को? ऐसे मीडिया के साथ बिहेव करते हो आप? बैरिकेड के ऊपर गिरा दे रहे हो आप लोग।
निकलने तो दो, फंस जाएंगे पीछे यार।
महिला महापंचायत करेंगे, लेकिन पुलिस ने अपनी तैयारी पूरी तरीके से करी हुई थी। पूरे इस एरिया को, जंतर मंतर को कॉर्डन ऑफ किया हुआ था। पुलिस हर एक कदम के लिए तैयार थी। हालांकि बीच में बातचीत का दौर भी जरूर रहा था, लेकिन उस बातचीत का कोई नतीजा नहीं निकला। पहलवानों ने साफ कह दिया था कि ये हमारा अधिकार है, हम पीसफुल मार्च करना चाहते हैं, हमें करने दिया जाए, लेकिन ऐसा कुछ हुआ नहीं। और जोर जबरदस्ती की तस्वीरें सतमत भाई
देख लो जी, खान भाई ये देखो आप,
साक्षी क्या हुआ?
जबरदस्ती कर रहे हैं, जबरदस्ती मार गए।
तोड़ दिया।
हाँ कुछ नहीं हुआ, टूट रहा है, ये देख लो आप।
ये देख सकते हैं आप यहाँ पर सत्यव्रत और साक्षी को पुलिस वालों ने पूरा घेरा हुआ है और साक्षी को हाथ में चोट आई है।
कर सकते जी आप, चोट लगी है उसको, आप छोड़ दो। ओए ओए ओए, ये मत करो आप, ये मत करो।
साक्षी को नीचे सड़क पर साक्षी को नीचे दबाया गया।
इसको जबरदस्ती दबा रहे हैं हमको, छोड़ दो जी उसने, वाला उन्हें छोड़ दो।
पुलिस ले जा रही है, वही दूसरी तरफ का मेडल है। साक्षी, ये वही साक्षी है जिन्होंने देश का झंडा जो है वो फहराया था। आज किस तरीके से खींचकर पुलिस इस वैन में उनको भर रही है। साक्षी ने आज तक से बातचीत में बताया कि ये मेरे साथ देखिए क्या कुछ हो रहा है।
ദിനേശ് ഫോഗോട്ട് അടക്കമുള്ള രാജ്യത്തിന്റെ അഭിമാനമായ താരങ്ങൾ ഈ ബാരിക്കേഡിന് പോലീസ് തീർത്ത 3 പ്രതിബന്ധങ്ങൾ ബാരിക്കേഡുകളെ മറികടന്നുകൊണ്ട് ഇപ്പോൾ മുന്നിൽ എത്തിയിരിക്കുകയാണ്. അതിനുശേഷം ഈ റോഡിൽ കുത്തിയിരുന്നുകൊണ്ട് ഇവിടെ പഞ്ചായത്ത് മഹാപഞ്ചായത്ത് ചേരുക എന്നുള്ളതാണ് അവരുടെ തീരുമാനം. ഇപ്പോൾ പോലീസിന്റെ 3 ബാരിക്കേഡുകൾ തീർത്ത് അടുത്ത ബാരിക്കേഡിന് മുന്നിൽ അവരിപ്പോൾ ഈ റോഡിൽ കുത്തിയിരുന്നിരിക്കുകയാണ്.
एक मिनट भैया, रश्मि
उसके अंदर है आपको नारेबाजी
यहाँ नीचे है वो, बहुत नीचे है, अभी दिखेगी नहीं, हल्का ऊपर आने दो।
Jamtar Mantar right now. Huge face-off that has taken place between the wrestlers and the Delhi police. Sakshi Malik pinned down by 10 police constables, says her hand is hurt. That's what she told one of our reporters. You had Dinesh Fogart, who's now being shoved into this van. He's been detained. What you see on your television screen are the wrestlers being escorted. Escorted would be a mild word to use. Being dragged into these vans there that you see on your television screen. Sakshi, how it all began was Sakshi Malik earlier on, alongside with Vinesh and Bajrang Punia, started to make their way towards the parliament in the match alongside, in the march alongside other wrestlers. And that is when Sakshi tried to...
जा रहे हैं, हमें जेल में डाल दिया गया है। प्रतिभूषण तो पार्लियामेंट में बैठा है और हम यहाँ जेल में बैठे हैं।
क्या पार्लियामेंट आपको लगता है प्रोटेस्ट भी सही कर रहा है? हमने बोला कि पार्लियामेंट के सामने
जाएंगे,
पार्लियामेंट के सामने बोला पुलिस कह रही है हमसे इजाजत नहीं मिली। हमने तो इजाजत दे रखी, हमारे पास चिट्ठी है, हमारे पास चिट्ठी है जो इजाजत दी है। हमारे को धरने पे बैठने की भी नहीं दे रखी अब तक, उसकी भी हमने परमिशन दी है। अब आगे क्या रहेगा आपका? आगे बढ़ेंगे, हम शांतिपूर्वक आगे बढ़ रहे हैं।
शांतिपूर्वक
हमें पुलिस ने दिया जाए, हम आगे शांतिपूर्वक बढ़ रहे हैं। हमारे साथ एक मिनट रुकोगे मैडम, साक्षी को वैसे तो बोल रहे कि हम महिलाओं का सम्मान करते हैं। एक पद्मश्री ओलंपिक मेडलिस्ट, कितनी ओलंपिक मेडलिस्ट महिला हमारे देश में? सांसद हमारे देश में बहुत है, हमारे देश में सांसद बहुत है। ओलंपिक मेडलिस्ट मैं पूछना चाहता हूँ मीडिया के माध्यम से, कितने लोग हैं?
क्या पुलिस को साक्षी ने उठा लिया?
साक्षी को उठा लिया है पुलिस प्रशासन ने, डिटेन कर लिया साक्षी को। दिनेश आप भी तो बोलिए, और ऊपर से उसको पद्मश्री भी दे रखा है। पद्मश्री की गरिमा नहीं रखी लोगों ने, जो मेडल मिले हैं, जो मेडल मिले, जो अवार्ड मिले, उनकी गरिमा नहीं रखी। आप भी कुछ बोलेंगी?
महिला महापंचायत में महिलाएं सबसे आगे थी, आप क्या कहेंगे?
ये बहुत साक्षी को बहुत ज्यादा चोटें आई। हम शांतिपूर्वक जो चल रहे थे।
आप देख सकते हैं अंजना जी, यहाँ पे तस्वीरों, ये सत्रवत के पास मेडल है। साक्षी भी इसी बस में है जिनके पास ओलंपिक का मेडल है। और पूरी घसीट कर यहाँ पर पुलिस ने सभी पहलवानों को इस बस के अंदर में रखा है, डिटेन किया है। अब इन्हें थाने की तरफ ले जाए जा रहे हैं। दूसरी तरफ वही बजरंग और विनेश, उनको भी पुलिस ने जो है डिटेन कर लिया है, अलग अलग बसों में, अलग अलग पुलिस की गाड़ियों में। हालांकि उससे पहले पुलिस और पहलवानों के बीच में बातचीत जरूर हुई थी। पुलिस का कहना था कि आप मत करिए। मनदीप भाई
साहब, ये देश का बड़ा घोटाले का काम भी प्रशासन कर
जबरदस्ती जो ठूस रहे हैं, ये चोट लग रही है। ये आप इनको दिखाओ, एक ये हरकत देख लो इनकी, पुलिस वालों की। कोई कानून नहीं तोड़ा हमने, फिर भी हमारे साथ जो इस प्रकार का जो हो रहा है ना, वो पूरा देश देख रहा है। लोकतंत्र की हत्या है ये,
हत्या है। सत्रवत साफ तौर पर ये कह रहे थे जब उनको डिटेन किया जा रहा था कि
All right, so these are visuals that are coming in right now, live from Jantar Mantar.
आराम से थाने लाग रहे थे, जबरदस्ती की छुड़ाया गया है। कति
साक्षी, आप लोगों को उम्मीद थी इस तरह से होगा?
नहीं थी, हम सोचे शांतिपूर्वक जाएंगे, पर शांतिपूर्वक जाके आगे से धकाना शुरू कर दिया कि नहीं आओगे, गिरा दिया गया। और मेरे सारे कपड़े पाड़ लिए, बहुत गंदा व्यवहार करे है। हम कोई भी इंसान नहीं करते, बिल्कुल चुपचाप जाने लग रहे थे आगे। बिल्कुल भारी पड़ रही है जी। जिनका काम होना चाहिए जाके गिरफ्तार करना दोषी को, वो हमारे ऊपर अपनी ताकत दिखा रहे हैं। ये तानाशाही जो करने का प्रयास किया गया देश के मेडलिस्टों पे, इसका इन्होंने 2024 में।
तो आप देख सकते हैं यहाँ पे लगातार ये जो पहलवान है वो एक ही बात कह रहे हैं कि ये तानाशाही है। चाहे कोई भी पहलवान हो, यहाँ पे 4 जो बड़े नाम थे, 4 जो बड़े चेहरे थे, बजरंग, विनेश, साक्षी और संगीता, उन सभी को डिटेन कर लिया गया है। सभी इस बस में बैठे हैं और ये सभी थाने की तरफ अब जा रहे हैं। तैयारी जरूर थी कि पार्लियामेंट पे जाएंगे और सरकार से अपनी बात पहुंचाने की कोशिश करेंगे, लेकिन ऐसा कुछ हुआ नहीं। पुलिस ने इन सभी लोगों को डिटेन कर लिया है।
हेलो, किस? ठीक है, ओके। You know, we're here right now exactly where the protesters have been stopped by the Delhi police. You can see Vinesh Phogat over here. She's seated over here along with the other protesters who were trying to march forward. There was a scuffle. We saw Sakshi Malik being dragged and detained by the Delhi police. Bajrang Punia has gone in trying to get a word from the other protesters. And what the update, we have seen that some of the women protesters who are also come over here as a part of the Mahila Panchayat. They have been detained, but clearly here you can see the protesters. They are not very keen on speaking to the media right now because it was a heavy scuffle between them and the Delhi police. They crossed some of the barricades and came over here. Delhi police personnel on the ground. You can see the RAF and everyone who was sitting over here. But the kind of visuals that we saw, extremely disturbing for likes of Sakshi Malik. These are our nation's pride. These are players that have got us medals. This is the kind of treatment that they have seen. You know, I'll go to Preeti once. You know, Preeti, today as the parliament is being inaugurated, we cannot ignore these visuals. We saw Sakshi Malik being dragged by Delhi police. We are seeing the protesters sitting over here right now as the Delhi police is trying to stop them. This is a scuffle, no less, and this is with those people who are our nation's pride.
Well, you know, these are appalling visuals that are coming in, Shreya, but, the Delhi police really, what does the Delhi police do here? They've been given clear instructions. It is a day which is momentous, it is historic. Jantar Mantar is just about a stone's throw away from the new parliament. But having said that, visuals like this will go down in the annals of Indian history as well. Because who are these? These are your Olympians. These are your podium finishers. And what you see right now on your television screen, you see Vinesh, you see other wrestlers right now sitting in protest, squatting there. Sakshi has been dragged into a bus. She says she's hurt her hand. She's been detained. The wrestlers here clearly with their back towards the wall, desperate, frustrated. They wanted to use this opportunity today to make a point to get their protest registered. Having said that, what now is the big question? Will Brij Bhushan Sharan be there in Parliament today when the second part of the unveiling or the inauguration of the new Parliament takes place? And if he does, then how is it that, we can look away from these visuals? Because it's difficult for anyone who's Indian, for anyone, who stands by law, to look away from these visuals. Ultimately, you keep the politics aside. What do you see? Don't take their word for gospel truth, but allow them the due process of law. And that is what's happened. 15 days it's taken to register an FIR, full 15 days.
Well,
right now, what's happening?
I'll want to cut across, Preeti. Once again, the Delhi police is now trying to get the protesters up. You can see, we will see, a scene over here which is, a scuffle is going to result in this. The Delhi police trying to lift the protesters who are sitting over here. The DCP of the New Delhi district, he also has given clear orders that no protesters can squat here on the ground. Women police officials are picking up the protesters one by one, and clearly they'll all be detained. You can see Bajrang, you can see Vinesh, they are holding the Indian flag. They are holding the Indian flag as a sign of their protest. They are holding this as somewhere down the line a message that they want the country to protect them. Clearly you can see the visuals of our wrestlers as the Delhi police is detaining them one by one.
शांति से बैठे हुए हैं, देख लो आप। हम कहीं संसद में तो नहीं है ना, जंतर मंतर पे बैठे हैं। देख लो आप, देखो आप, देखो आप, देखो आप, देखो आप, देखो आप, देखो आप पुलिस को देखो एक बार, वो देखो, वो देखो, वो देखो। जिंदाबाद, 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 जिंदाबाद,
जिंदाबाद में चोट आई है, सत्याग्रह को जबरदस्ती बस में डाला गया है। आप
दिखाओ जी, आप दिखाओ। आज ऐतिहासिक दिन है, आज ऐतिहासिक दिन है।
गाड़ी दी गई है, गाड़ी दी गई है। बहन की, बेबी की, माँ की, सबकी गाड़ी दी है। हम विनेश, आपको पुलिस ऐसे बताओ कि आप
बिल्कुल नहीं है जी, बिल्कुल नहीं है जी, बिल्कुल नहीं है।
आप देखिए, यहाँ पर आ गई है फीमेल कांस्टेबल्स और यहाँ पर विनेश बजरंग और इनके तमाम जो समर्थक इस वक्त मौजूद हैं, उनको यहाँ से उठाने की तैयारी चल रही है।
Is something that they were not allowed. Delhi police is personnel who've been directed to just whisk them away are right now detaining them one by one. We could speak with Bajrang before the Delhi police personnel have detained him. He said that they wanted to peacefully protest. But somewhere down the line, these visuals are definitely not in the good light. These are not in the best of taste. And clearly, when we see these players who've got accolades for the country being scuffed, being detained by the police in such a manner, very disturbing visuals here from the Jantar Mantar. Probably a better dialogue could have happened. Probably the protesters also could have seen that such an image could be avoided. But clearly, this is something that hasn't gone well in the light. And Preeti, if you can also see the visuals, these are very disturbing images that are coming in from Jantar Mantar. We could barely manage a word from Bajrang when he was taken away by the Delhi police. He said that he only wanted to peacefully protest, but he wasn't allowed. And some of them have also got injuries in the manner that they were being detained. Hello? हाँ, पैच कर दीजिए और बजरंग पुनिया का मैंने भेज दिया टीटी।
मीडिया के साथ भी जो है धक्का मुक्की कर रही है और लगातार मीडिया को हटाने की कोशिश कर रही है। लेकिन इन खिलाड़ी जो कि अपने न्याय की लड़ाई के लिए, अपने हक की बात करने के लिए जंतर मंतर पर पिछले 1 महीने से बैठे थे। विनेश को पकड़ लिया है, विनेश को पकड़ लिया है। विनेश 1 मिनट, विनेश को डिटेन किया जा रहा है। विनेश
हाँ,
and they are trying to resist.
ओके।
विनेश, आप लोगों को उम्मीद ऐसा होगा।
देख लो, आप देश का संविधान देख लो,
आप लोग ओलंपियंस हैं।
संविधान देखो।
लगातार यहाँ पर सभी जो पहलवान हैं उनको डिटेन करने की बजरंग, विनेश, संगीता, इन सभी को बसों में भर लिया गया है और अब यहाँ से धक्का मार के बसों में डाला गया है।
हमें नहीं पता कहाँ लेके जा रहे नहीं पता कहाँ लेके। हाँ, मेरे को उस बस में जाना है। 1 मिनट रुक जाओ। पर जो भी हो रहा है ना देश में, ये बहुत गलत हो रहा है।
आराम से ले लो, आराम से।
ये हमें डिटेन कर रहे हैं, जो भी गिरफ्तार कर रहे हैं।
गिरफ्तार नहीं कर रहे, सिर्फ आपको राष्ट्रविरोधी से रोक रहे हैं।
वही बोल रहे हैं, सुरक्षा सिर्फ हमारे लिए ही है। हाँ, हमारे लिए ही है जी, हमें पता है। ब्रजभूषण का तो आप कुछ कर नहीं सकते।
कुछ नहीं,
देख लो ना कैसे पकड़ रखे हैं।
आप लोग ओलंपियन है, आप यहाँ पे देश का मेडल दिला।
यहाँ देश के मेडल कोई काम नहीं आ रहे।
मीडिया प्लीज,
ये
मीडिया प्लीज,
वही बता रहा हूँ, देश के मेडल कोई काम नहीं आ रहे।
इसको अलग कर यार, अलग कर इसको।
लड़ाई जो है
भाई इसको भी अलग करो, इसको अलग करो, अलग करो भाई, अलग
यहाँ पर ये साथ में
कोशिश उनकी यही है कि इन्हें भी बस में बिठाया जाए। एक बार बिठाया गया, लेकिन उतर गए और दोबारा उन्हें उठाने की कोशिश की जा रही है।
Being dragged and detained in a bus. On the other side, Vinesh Fogart also now being detained one by one. Each of the wrestlers have been taken in and detained in the buses that have been bought. The security forces that have been installed at Jantar Mantar are unprecedented. Every border road reaching to the national capital has been blocked. There have been concrete blocks in most of the borders there. All borders have been sealed, and these are the visuals that are filtering live right now from Delhi's Jantar Mantar. Earlier on, the wrestlers had looked at a Mahila Panchayat where thousands of women were to join them in a panchayat that was to take place right in front of the new parliament. They did choose this day today. There's a sense of frustration that is set in where our wrestlers are concerned, a sense of desperation at that. It's been 35 days. They've gone unheard. They wanted to use the opportunity today with the inauguration of the new parliament to put the spotlight on their cause. That hasn't quite happened. Nobody really, in terms of support, the jathas that they were talking about, jathas primarily groups of men and women coming in to join these wrestlers at Jantar Mantar, all of them have been either stopped at the borders or detained late last night. The wrestlers there now being taken in. You have Bajrang Punia, who's been shoved into a police van. He's been detained. Sakshi was dragged into a bus. She's been detained. Sakshi says it's not her hands. We're going to be playing those visuals out for our viewers very, very soon. Disturbing visuals at that. These were same Olympians who India stood up for, who they made proud at the Olympics at national levels. And to see these visuals would break India's heart at this point of time, because at somewhere down the line, what is it that they are asking? Nobody's, they've said it over and over again, don't take our word for the gospel truth, but at least follow due process of law. I want to immediately cut across to my colleague Nitin Srivastava, who's been on ground reporting, getting us the latest. Nitin, can you take us through on what exactly has happened? I believe all the wrestlers have been now detained. The bus is moving out of Jantar Mantar. Get us the latest.
दिल्ली पुलिस ने ऐसा कुछ होने नहीं दिया. There was a discussion prior to the march. There was a discussion prior to the march between wrestlers and Delhi police, but wrestlers categorically denied that we are going to march to the parliament, to the new parliament, and we will be having our Mahila Mahapanchayat over there. And it is our right, and it is a peaceful protest. But as you can see in the pictures now, it has turned into a detention process. Each and every wrestlers who
थैंक यू. बस हो गया. अभी वेट करिए. वी आर इन द प्रोसेस. अभी वेट करिए.
सर बैरिकेड तोड़े सर महिला बहनों ने.
अभी वेट करिए. अभी वेट
तोड़े सर इन्होंने.
सुनिए, सारी कानूनी कार्रवाई होगी. जाइए.
सर पहलवानों के बैरिकेड तोड़े हैं, क्या कार्रवाई हो रही है?
बिल्कुल उसका आकलन होगा और कानूनी कार्रवाई होगी. चलिए.
उनका आरोप है कि कपड़े फाड़े महिला पुलिसकर्मियों की कमी थी.
माइक लगा रहा भाई तरीके से ये देख.
You just heard the Delhi police there. What the senior cops just said is that there will be karwahi, there will be action against these wrestlers for breaking the barricades. The wrestlers have turned around and questioned that you heard Bajrang Punia when he was being dragged, and that is something that would echo and should echo, with a lot of people today who are watching this broadcast. Because what did he say? He said that the Delhi police has done what they could, to stop the wrestlers. The Delhi police has done what they could, to detain them, to stop what is a protest in a democracy. It is their democratic right to go ahead and protest. On the other hand, they haven't said or done anything where Brij Bhushan Sharan is concerned, who should have been arrested by now because he booked on the pop. So listen in to more reactions still to begin.
काम है वो हमको करने दीजिए, please.
All right.
Please. Okay.
So Dipendra Pathak, he was saying clearly that we are taking to the wrestlers in a different part of Delhi, and they will be detained over there. In the meanwhile, they will try to investigate that how long these wrestlers can be put behind, and soon after they will be released. But as of now, the pictures are talking everything. These are the wrestlers who have bought rollers, medals for the country. But now, a mad wrestler, a mad winner, is now detained. See, Sangeeta is over there in the bus. She has been detained, and police is taking them. Mandip bhai. So, as of now, a small scuffle between police and wrestlers can be seen over here at Jantar Mantar. I have covered many tournaments. I have covered Vinesh, as you can see, Vinesh, there is a scuffle going on between Delhi police and Vinesh. Police is trying, Delhi police, women's constables are trying to get Vinesh inside the bus, but there is a scuffle going on between Vinesh Fogart.
All right, these are visuals coming in of Vinesh being dragged in the bus. You know, one has to say these are wrestlers. For the last 15 minutes, the Delhi police women, the constables there are trying to drag Vinesh into the bus, and they haven't been able to because Vinesh is resisting, and they still haven't been able to pull her inside the bus. You know, this is sheer strength. These are Olympians. Of course, they are not using force, but they are refusing to enter the bus. And Vinesh now being dragged in a fashion that nobody would want to see. Her T-shirt being pulled from all sides. You know, this is inappropriate, one would say. Highly, highly inappropriate. And you have women constables trying to push Vinesh. You know, you see, let's go big with that image of Vinesh Fogart being dragged inside the bus. On the other side, you see Sakshi, who was pulled in. You can see Sakshi being dragged on the road. On the right-hand side of your television screens, you can see Sakshi being dragged on the road. On the left-hand side, you see Vinesh resisting, but after 15 minutes being taken into the... Let's listen at reactions coming in. All right, okay, they're going to try and get in reactions there that, you know, these are appalling. You have Sakshi on the right-hand side of the television screen. On the left-hand side, Vinesh just being dragged in right now. You have Vinesh's sister there trying to get a word in. But appalling visuals in terms of just the way our Olympians, our wrestlers have been treated. Ultimately, what is it? They were exercising their right to democracy, which is ironic because somewhere down the line today was the inauguration of the temple, the proverbial temple of democracy. Let's cut across right now and try and get in more from ground. Nitin, over to you. What's the latest?
So as of now, all wrestlers are detained. Police is taking them to the different locations in Delhi. As Dipender Pathak said, that we are detaining all the wrestlers, supporters, COP leaders, Kisan leaders, everyone who is here is been now detained. And as of now, as you can see in the pictures, Jitendra, the blue T-shirt, is Jitendra, is national champion who has got medal for India. And now he's been detained. He is trying to say something. I'll just try and ask to Jitendra that what exactly is going on. Jitu bhai, क्या हुआ? We can die and fight, and that is what they are doing for last 30 days here at Jantar Mantar. The protest was peaceful. Wrestlers was continuously saying that we are going to march to new Parliament building today, and this march will be peaceful. But now it has turned into a detention process. All the wrestlers, all the leaders, COP Panchayats, everybody is now has been detained, and police is very adamant in saying that we are taking them to a different location, and soon after investigation they will release all the wrestlers and the COP leaders, Kisan leaders. Preeti.
All right, Nitin. All of these wrestlers now being taken to detention centers, the wrestlers who had come in support with them, it's just not these three. They might be the face of this agitation, viewers, but it's not just Bajrang Punia, Vinesh Fogart or Sakshi Malik. A lot of other wrestlers have also joined in. It took over If I'm not wrong, Shreya, if you're with us, take us through. How long did it take to actually put, Vinesh Fogart in that bus, drag her in, the sheer strength of that young woman?
Well, absolutely, Preeti. It took quite a lot of effort by Delhi police, not one single person. Quite many of them had to actually take Vinesh Fogart. She'd freed herself from the clutches of the Delhi police quite a long time. Same with Sakshi, same with Bajrang Punia. These are our athletes. Their strength cannot be matched with even the police on the ground, and it was very difficult for the Delhi police to contain them and finally detain them. This is the bus that is moving forward. We've seen most of them who've already been dragged and taken inside the bus. Bajrang was separately taken by the Delhi police in a separate vehicle. Vinesh also was present in the bus, and before Bajrang was taken away, we could barely get a chance to speak with him, where he said that all I wanted to do was peacefully protest. Why wasn't that allowed? So that is also a question that needs to be answered. But the Delhi police says that there were sections that was imposed, section 144 was imposed, and this is an action that was taken because that was violated by the wrestlers. This was a Rashtra Virodhi Act, is what was said by the Special Commissioner Law and Order Dipendra Pathak, and he said that the entire situation will be taken stock of, legal action will be taken. So in all likelihood, Preeti, in an hour or two, we will get a clarity on the number of protesters that were detained by the Delhi police and the kind of legal action that will be initiated by them. But as of now, they're all being taken away, and most likely in Delhi police favorite ground of Kingsway Camp is where they usually take most of these protesters after they are detained, is where they are also headed. Bajrang was taken away singularly. We'll have to wait and watch that what forward action Delhi police takes. But look at the protesters, they definitely not given up their hope, but they couldn't march forward till the parliament. But clearly this was a tough action that we've seen on the ground. As we also speak about what has just resulted, we will, just for a recap for our viewers, we'll go back to what we saw here on the ground when the protesters tried to march forward to the parliament. Check out those visuals.
बहुत ज्यादा जबरदस्ती हुई है जी, आराम से चलने लग रहे थे, जबरदस्ती की छुड़ाया गया है।
आप लोगों को उम्मीद थी इस तरह से होगा?
नहीं थी, हम सोचे शांतिपूर्वक जाएंगे, पर शांतिपूर्वक जाके आगे से धकाना शुरू कर दिया कि नहीं आओगे, गिरा दिया गया, मेरे सारे कपड़े पाड़ लिए, बहुत गंदा व्यवहार करा है। हम कोई भी इंसान नहीं करते, बिल्कुल चुपचाप जाने लग रहे थे आगे।
साक्षी को उठा लिया है पुलिस प्रशासन ने, डिटेन कर लिया साक्षी को। और ऊपर से उसको पद्म श्री भी दे रखा है। पद्म श्री की गरिमा नहीं रखी लोगों ने, जो मेडल मिले हैं, जो मेडल मिले, जो अवार्ड मिले, उनकी गरिमा नहीं रखी।
Well, as we clearly heard those visuals of these protesters, yes, of the protesters, and just seen the visuals on the ground, you can see that RAF is still deployed. Delhi police is also on the ground. Also important to mention to our viewers is the entire action that we saw on the ground was also at the presence of all the top officials of the Delhi police. We saw two special commissioners who were on the ground. We saw the DCP on the ground. There were clear orders from the DCP the moment the protesters sat over here that they need to be whisked away. The Delhi police showed no sign of compassion when these the wrestlers were being detained, but only to mention that before the march could start, we did see the Special Commissioner Law and Order Dipendra Pathak. He had given clear messages to the protesters. They had given clear orders to the protesters that they shouldn't be marching forward. And we'll also go back to Nitin. He's been covering this protest from day one, and he's been speaking with all the wrestlers who are there on the ground firsthand. So we'll go across to Nitin to say that what he actually saw, the entire ordeal that transpired here in Jantar Mantar. Over to you, Nitin. Okay, so, now as the protesters have also been detained, it will be important to see that what happens to here, this enclosure site where the protesters were sitting for last 35 days. Once they will be freed, will they come back? What kind of action will be taken by Delhi police? Because we did speak with the top officials of the Delhi police. You can see over here, they're still on the ground. We can see two special commissioners. We can see Dipendra Pathak, who's still on the ground, and he very categorically said that what happened today from the side of the protesters was breaking of law and order. There was Section 144 was imposed over here. The protesters did not listen, and now they will take a stock of the situation, and accordingly legal action will be taken. Preeti, if you can hear me, you've seen the entire situation that transpired here in Jantar Mantar. There could be sides to it. People could say that this is an important day, that the parliament is being inaugurated and the protesters could have not done this thing. But what we did see, can we really ignore from the likes of Sakshi Malik, Bajrang Punia, people who've got a college for the country, they being dragged by the Delhi police. Could this have been avoided if there was timely action against Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh? Probably this thing could have been avoided, Preeti.
Well, you're right there, because the reason that they have chosen today to protest, Shreya, they had their backs to the wall. If you actually look at it, they were desperate. There's a sense of frustration that had set in. So, yes, when you see it in that context, what would they have done? And what they are doing is that they are exercising their own right, up to a democratic process. So it's their right to protest, and they are doing so. The reason that they chose today can be questionable, is being questioned by many. But Shreya, if you look at it in the larger context, it took them 15 days, the intervention of the Supreme Court, to step in to actually file an FIR. On the other hand, there's a case of POCSO against a man who could very well be in Parliament today when the second round of takes place of the inauguration of the Parliament. And yes, you can, there is a section which will question that why they did what they did and why they chose today. But there will be and should be a section which actually looks at these visuals of our Olympians being drawn. What are they doing ultimately? Exercising their right to protest. It's a part of democracy. So it's ironic when you juxtapose it with, the inauguration of the Parliament. And why is it that they have gone unheard? Why is it that they've sat there for 35 days and nobody from the government has tried to build bridges with them? Ultimately, they are not criminals. So yes, all of those questions need to be taken in context of why they chose today. Would they have avoided today? Of course, they could have avoided today. But would it have, given them the kind of attention that they wanted, because which they hadn't got till now? No, it wouldn't have.
Well, probably because we are speaking again about the Parliament being inaugurated, Preeti, and this is indeed a special day for the country. But have protests really been about the comfort of others? Protests have always been at times to probably ensure that their voices are heard, and that's exactly why we have seen the protesters feel that today is a fit day to protest, because everyone's eyes will be at the Parliament, and probably this is the only way that they could have got themselves heard. Important to point out, this is the version 2 of the protest by the protesters. In the first place, they had actually gone before the organization. They had gone to the ministry. They had also spoken to that committee that was set up. They were not happy with the outcome of the entire report that was given by the committee. They said that it was biased in a manner that it favored Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh, and only then they resorted to a police complaint. We know the 7 women wrestlers have given a complaint against Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh, one of them being a minor. The protesters, the wrestlers, they again and again say that the reason they are doing or they have to protest is because what usually happens in such cases hasn't been followed. We have seen that even in the case of the registering of Section 164, the protesters, the wrestlers have to say they had to go to court before the statements were registered. So probably this is something that the protesters and the wrestlers say is a reaction. This is not something that they have done because they willfully wanted to. Yes, there could have been some restraint. Yes, today could have been avoided. But yet again, important to point out probably that no protest ever happens from the comfort of anyone else's point of view. Today is something that the protesters found a fit day to protest, is why they chose it. But the kind of visuals that came in from Jantar Mantar doesn't really put India in a good light, because remember, these are players who've got accolades for the country. They are Olympic medal winners. They were dragged by the Delhi police. These visuals will be broadcasted, something that could have been avoided. These visuals could have been avoided. And you know, as we speak, let's go back to a recap and get the responses that have come in from the wrestlers and others as the entire incident transpired.
बहुत ज्यादा जबरदस्ती हुई है जी, आराम तो थाने लाग रहे थे, जबरदस्ती की छुड़ाया गया है कति।
आप लोगों को उम्मीद थी इस तरह से होगा?
नहीं थी, हम सोचे शांतिपूर्वक जाएंगे, पर शांतिपूर्वक जाके आगे से धकाना शुरू कर दिया कि नहीं आओगे, गिरा दिया गया, मेरे सारे कपड़े पाड़ लिए, बहुत गंदा व्यवहार करा है। हम कोई भी इंसान नहीं करते, बिल्कुल चुपचाप जाने लग रहे थे आगे।
साक्षी को उठा लिया है पुलिस प्रशासन ने, डिटेन कर लिया साक्षी को। और ऊपर से उसको पद्म श्री भी दे रखा है, पद्म श्री की भी गरिमा नहीं रखी लोगों ने, गरिमा नहीं रखी। जो मेडल मिले हैं, जो मेडल मिले, जो अवार्ड मिले, उनकी गरिमा नहीं रखी।
अभी वेट करिए, अभी वेट सुनिए, सारी कानूनी कार्रवाई होगी। जाइए।
सर, पहलवानों जो बैरिकेड तोड़े हैं, क्या कार्रवाई हो रही है?
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल, उसका आकलन होगा और कानूनी कार्रवाई होगी। चलिए।
You know, we've heard the response from the Delhi police. They very categorically say that barricades have been broken, and accordingly action will be taken. Clearly, the Delhi police is taking this as a violation of law and order, because section 144 was imposed in the area, and subsequently, despite the Delhi police trying to engage in a dialogue with the protesters, with the wrestlers, they did not listen and they marched forward, and that is the reason that they have been detained. There will be questions and counter questions. People will say that today could be avoided. Some will say that the visuals are disturbing. They are something that puts the country in the bad light. We can have an analysis on what could have been better done, but if we come back to the entire case of the accusations that's been leveled by the wrestlers, there is an investigation that is underway. Yet again, whether timely action, timely requirement that the Delhi police could have actually acted on this case, probably could have avoided this thing, is something that people need to ponder upon. I'll try and get another question from Preeti. Preeti, you know, the entire action the entire action will be questioned by some, but you know, we also cannot look away that the Delhi police tried to get in a dialogue with the protesters before they started to march forward. However, could the Delhi police have taken a better action in the case of Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh? Can we really avoid saying that 164 statements were only recorded after the protesters visited the court? Because even after filing a complaint, the Delhi police did in fact delay in registering 164 statements, Preeti.
सड़क खाली कराई जाए, तस्वीरें देखिए किस तरीके से विनेश और संगीता करा रही है।
Okay, I think we'll have to get that line fixed. But as we talk right now, the sense of calm has come back to Jantar Mantar. This was a scuffle that did not definitely look good. The way the protesters were dragged, the way we saw Sakshi Malik being dragged and detained in the bus, the way Bajrang Punia was whisked away in a car, the way Vinesh Fogart was detained in a bus, and the wrestlers. These are players who are Olympic medal winners, and probably these visuals are very disturbing. The Delhi police also has a pertinent point that today is a very important day for the country. It is the day when the new parliament is being inaugurated. Time and again, they requested the protesters that they should not resort to anything that will result into an untoward situation. They tried to get into a dialogue with the protesters when they started to march forward. The protesters said they will not listen to them because it is their democratic right to protest and they want to protest peacefully. India Today also spoke with Bajrang Punia. Bajrang Punia told us that this is a peaceful protest that they just wanted to march forward. And probably, we did see that there was a candle march that was very recently held when the protesters were also allowed to the India Gate, where the Delhi police provided security for the wrestlers to actually move and go towards India Gate when the candle march was held. But today, when they were not allowed, the protesters seemingly are disturbed. They said that this is a part of their protest. We can question, because once Delhi police in fact allowed the protesters, but today probably looking at the day, a day when the new parliament the day when the parliament is being inaugurated is something that could have been avoided. And the visuals also speak for themselves. The kind of ruckus that actually took place today, here where we are at Jantar Mantar, 2 steps ahead, there are at least 3 layers of barricading that were put in place. But the wrestlers, they marched forward and they went forward despite the Delhi police trying to stop them. We will try and go back to the visuals of the ruckus that actually played out here at Jantar Mantar.
यहाँ पर आ गई है फीमेल कांस्टेबल्स और यहाँ पर विनेश, बजरंग और इनके तमाम जो समर्थक इस वक्त मौजूद हैं, उनको यहाँ से उठाने की तैयारी चल रही है। जोर आजमाइश किया जा रहा है। तस्वीरों में देखिए किस तरीके से संगीता यहाँ पर आ गई है।
We will speak. Preeti, if you can hear me, I quickly want to take a question from you. Preeti, just a few days back, the wrestlers were allowed to march to the India Gate, where they held a candle march, and we did see, in fact, on that very day, the Delhi police give the kind of security measures that were required. Today, it looked different. So can we say that it is because the day is such is why the Delhi police had to resort to such action? Because just a few days back, barely a week from today, the protesters were in fact allowed to march to India Gate, where they actually held a candle march, Preeti. And, again, we'll try and get that line fixed again. But from what we were speaking about was that the ruckus that we saw that has exactly transpired over here was probably because today was also an important day for the country. It was the inauguration of the parliament. Barely some kilometers from here, the parliament was inaugurated. There were respected guests that were also slated to come. And that's probably why the situation was unavoidable and such that the Delhi police couldn't have allowed the wrestlers to go to the parliament. And the reason we say so is barely a few days from today, we saw the Delhi police assist and lead the protesters when they marched towards India Gate and held that candle march. So clearly, when we talk about the two different scenarios, the only plausible reason that we get from it is that the inauguration of the parliament is something that couldn't have been compromised in any way. Having said that, the question is also on Delhi police that they had a job at hand. They had a duty to investigate. They had a job and they had a duty to investigate the case of Brijbhushan Sharan Singh. They also delayed it. Preeti, if you can hear me, I just have one question to ask. That a few days back, we saw these protesters when they actually wanted to hold a candle march, they were assisted by the Delhi police to India Gate. Today, the visuals were different. Do you think that the Delhi police's only reason to intervene and resort to this kind of measures was because it was parliament, or could the Delhi police have taken a better measure today?
The Delhi police, I'm quite sure, had very strict instructions in terms of there is the inauguration of the new parliament, which is a historic day where the country is staying, and nobody is denying that. But having said that, the kind of crackdown that we saw on not just the wrestlers, how every border that led to the national capital of anyone who wanted to come in solidarity and protest with these wrestlers. Because ideally today was what? Today was the Mahila Panchayat. What was to be were thousands of women, banding together in front of the new parliament in a Mahapanchayat. That was what the plan was. Every border leading to the national capital was sealed, not just, with a basic bandobast, but sealed with concrete blocks. So even those jathas which were coming in buses, in tempos, all of that couldn't quite make it. Till late last night, all farm leaders, Khap Panchayat leaders, many of them were detained across the state of Haryana, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh and Punjab especially. So all of that was solved in any case. Now these wrestlers today, this morning, held a press conference. If you heard Safi Malik, who went on and suggested that, many protesters who were coming in support of them have been stopped, and she urged, people from the national capital to come, to them. But yes, when the wrestlers marked 30 days, because the Delhi police is also in a catch-22 situation, because the Delhi police at one level cannot show the same kind of heavy hand that they show on other protesters, on our wrestlers. There's a huge amount of empathy, that our wrestlers carry. And the Delhi police would, need to, show a bit of restraint. So yes, when 30th day, when the wrestling protest turned 30 days, they did hold a candlelight protest where they marched from Jantar Mantar to India Gate, and they were assisted, by the Delhi police. This time around, things are different, because this time around it's juxtaposition of what is really happening inside the new building. It's the inauguration of the new building, and if you see right outside, if these protesters were able to get outside the new building where they were looking at holding a Mahapanchayat, the optics of that would have gone horribly wrong. It would have been the deepest irony, because at one hand you have a momentous historic occasion for the country where the new parliament building is being inaugurated, and on the other hand you'd have what? A protest by wrestlers, Olympians, our sportspersons who made us so very proud, but right now have been forced to sit in protest outside the new parliament. Those optics would have gone horribly wrong. So the Delhi police had said that, listen, we've constantly requested them not to, protest today, but yet they have chosen the day, and they are going to follow the rule of law, which is to come down heavily, and which they did. Because ever since the course of the morning prayer, you've been on ground, you've seen it, that they have constantly, barricaded the area. The kind of police presence that we've seen is unprecedented. I was there this morning, completely outnumbering even the number of protesters there. That's the kind of, police presence, rapid action force presence that we've seen. This time around, they had to be sure, because they had to bring in a lot of women police force, considering that lots of these wrestlers are women. And we did see that crackdown. But, can you question the wrestlers to say that why is it that they chose today on such a historic, momentous day? You really cannot question them. It's their right to protest, number one. Number two, you've ignored them for 35 days. They've been squatting on the streets of Jantar Mantar, asking you to intervene, asking, action against Brij Bhushan Saran. And what would be a slap on their face today is that if Brij Bhushan Saran, who is in the national capital, like you pointed out, is present at the parliament this afternoon when the second leg of the inauguration ceremony takes place, because Brij Bhushan Saran, a POCSO accused by 7 women of sexual harassment, would be inside the parliament, while our Olympians were asking for what? Not their word to be taken as gospel truth, but that due process of law follows, will be inside a detention center by the Delhi police there.
Well, Preeti, and exactly when we talk about the optics, this was really something that should have been avoided, because where these protesters were detained, Preeti, this is barely a few meters away from the house of Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh. Now, again, if we say that the Delhi police had strictest orders, can we really deny, Preeti, that this also gives the power to the wrestlers to question the Delhi police that A, they cannot arrest or take strict action against Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh, but when it comes to detaining the wrestlers, their action is very swift. So somewhere down the line, this is also something, Preeti, that will give more power to the wrestlers to probably continue their protest from here onward, because in no way they will be moving back. That's something that they've made it clear. But today's action, somewhere down the line, will only get the wrestlers more angry. Brijbhushan Sharan Singh is freely moving around. This is the house that we are standing near. This is where Brijbhushan Sharan Singh resides. He is in Delhi. In all likelihood, we'll also be seeing him in the parliament. Delhi police says that they have questioned him once, but there hasn't been any concrete answer on why there was no action taken against Brijbhushan Sharan Singh. Changed the side to that, and today we saw the kind of measure that was taken forward by the Delhi police in detaining the protesters, Preeti. So don't you think that this is something that the protesters will only rake up against?
How does one put it? If you look at it, it's been 35 days long that they've been protesting on the streets of the national capital. For 35 days, they've tried to make their voices heard. They've failed to do so in terms of, because other than sympathy, empathy, from people across the country, they really haven't got the kind of traction which has compelled the government to take action. To something like this, they were hoping to leverage these visuals, to leverage them to aid their protest forward. It was flagging in the last few days. We saw, it's really hot. It's over 45 degrees Celsius. You saw a sense of fatigue that has set in, a sense of despondency from the authorities. You could sense that. They wanted possibly today, which was, the day which corresponds with the parliament inauguration, the new parliament inauguration, to give a fillip, to give a new, a second wind to their protest. They were hoping to draw eyeballs, and, to a huge limit, they have been able to do so in terms of, while we see all these visuals coming in from the national, from the new parliament, you also see visuals of a Sakshi Malik's t-shirt being, being torn and her being dragged on the road to the national capital. You see Vinesh Fogart being pushed inside a bus. You see all these visuals coming in. So they've got what they wanted in terms of trying to, give it that, to show the disparity in terms of what they call justice. And on the same hand, if Brijbhushan Sharan is at the parliament, how will the government damage control those optics? Because here is a man who's standing in parliament. On the other hand, you have a wrestler squatting on the road, being dragged, being shoved into buses. So, yes, the wrestlers would hope that today gives them that much needed push in terms of their protest, not just eyeballs, but possibly action. Let's see how things pan out, Shreya. What would be important, and everybody would be interesting to know, is if Brijbhushan Sharan will actually be in the hallowed halls of the new parliament today.
Well, anytime from now, Preeti, will probably get a clarity on that, and because the visuals will be coming in from the parliament as the second leg of the celebration starts from 12. Whether he's a part of those important, eminent guests in the parliament is something that we'll have to wait and watch, because yesterday Brijbhushan Sharan Singh was at his residence here barely few meters from where these protesters, the wrestlers, have now been detained. And as Delhi police has taken such a swift action in detaining the protesters, we only hope that there will be, some clarity and update on the case that there's also been filed against Brijbhushan Sharan Singh. Yesterday, in Delhi's Rouse Avenue Court, they have filed a status report saying that Section 164 CRPC statements of all the complainants have been registered. They filed a status report on the part of the investigation. Sources in Delhi police have confirmed to us that Brijbhushan Sharan Singh's also been questioned once, but as of now, there is no strict action that is against him, because that's not needed at the moment, is what sources from Delhi police have to say. But right now, with today's scenario playing out, with the protesters being detained, those visuals that clearly were very disturbing, as we saw when protesters were roughed up, when Vinesh and the likes of Sakshi Malik, players who've got a call, it's for the country, these are Olympic winners, and they have been treated in such a manner. With these visuals playing out, it is also important to point out that the opposition, in all likelihood, will use this entire event as something to mount pressure against the centre, and the Delhi police will also have to answer on what their update is on the case. And even as Preeti was very rightly pointing it out, that once we get those visuals from the parliament, if at all Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh is inside the new parliament at a time when these wrestlers have been detained, that will be very bad optics for the centre. So we'll have to wait and watch on the update on that side, that what has really transpired. But as of now, we are yet to get a clarity on where these protesters have been taken. They have been detained. From the history of what Delhi police usually does when they detain protesters, they take them to Kingsway camp, which is the north part of the capital, and they're released later. We are yet to get a clarity on whether there will be any action against them, because we saw Dipendra Pathak, we heard him, he said that they are taking a stock of the situation because this was a violation of law and order on the part of the wrestlers. Whether there will be any case that will be slapped against them is also something we'll have to wait for the end of the day and get a clarity on the same from the Delhi police. But right now, everyone who wanted to be a part of the protest have been detained. This includes the women who would also come, because this was a Mahila Panchayat call that was also given. But right now, as we again move forward to Jantar Mantar, the area where the protesters have been sitting for the last 35 days, it sounds to be empty. This is a rare sight ever since the protesters have come to Jantar Mantar. This is a very rare sight, clearly. But right now, we'll have to go and see that what transpires from here. And if Preeti is still on with us, I'll just ask another question to her. Preeti, clearly, if we're talking about today's ruckus, but if we talk about the entire case, what makes sense, Preeti, that there's a POCSO that's slapped against Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh. There are 6 other women who've also complained about sexual harassment. The kind of complaints that were also filed were very disturbing. Despite so, why do you see that Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh is still not seeing any strict action? What does this speak of the investigation so far as the Delhi police is also concerned?
You know, one feels to understand, but where the government is concerned, I would reckon, Shreya, with what we've seen them do in terms of, the protests that have taken place in the past, is they seem to not want to succumb to pressure tactics. In a way, it's a good thing that the government doesn't want to succumb to pressure tactics. But on the other hand, following the due course of law and being very basic about following protocol, especially when it comes down to such a sensitive case like this, where minors are involved, where our wrestlers, our Olympians, our sports persons are involved, maybe it should have, warranted a different thing. But on the other side, who is Brij Bhushan Sharan? Other than, the WFI, World Wrestling of India, Federation of India's president, he's also a very, very influential MP who comes from Uttar Pradesh, wields a considerable amount of political power. So a lot goes on into the optics of it all. So why isn't the Delhi police acting? There's a question that we all need to ask. The Supreme Court did, in fact, intervene and coerce the Delhi police into actually filing an FIR. But what stops the Delhi police from making an arrest when a POCSO case is involved? Usually, you're a crime reporter, you know this by the back of your hand. That usually after, a statement under Section 164 in front of a magistrate is recorded. Even that took so much time there. These girls have to constantly ask that why isn't our statement being recorded in front of a magistrate. But having said that, usually one would see that once that statement is recorded, that the person accused, in most cases, is taken under custody. Why is it not happened in this regard? And why is it that he's not even really included into the ambit of investigation? He hasn't even been summoned to Delhi. He continues, to do what he feels like, with every day making one belligerent statement after the other. Not just that, we've had all the wrestlers who are saying that, he's a very, very influential, powerful man who can influence the case. And that is true, because he does enjoy a fair amount of political clout, to the effect that the wrestlers allege that there is, a campaign to defame them.
We'll have an update in the case right now. The protest area where the wrestlers were sitting for the last 35 days have now been vacated by the Delhi police. This is something that will be questioned by the wrestlers, the protesters who were joined in the backdrop of their protest as they were detained. Delhi police has now cleared the area. I also have Nitin joining with us. He has been covering the protest from day one, giving us exclusive information from the wrestlers. Nitin, we've seen that the entire area has now been cleared. Do you see that this is something that will not be taken in the right light by the protesters?
Absolutely, because they are not aware of it. They have been detained, they have been taken to the different locations of Delhi, and as Mr. Pathak was saying, that as of now, all the wrestlers, protesters, CAP leaders, Kisan leaders who were there at that time was detained, and they have been taken to the different locations. But looking at this picture where the actual protest area has been vacated, there is no tent, no tambu at all beds, everything is clear. So, police, I think, was very, prepared for.
It's a smart action, we can say.
That is what it is. This was a smart act, and that is what I am sensing from this act of police, that they were already planned that we are going to detain the wrestlers, because they were very adamant that we are going to march to new parliament, and it is a peaceful protest, it is a right. But at the other hand, police was ready for this action. They wanted to detain them, and right after the detention, as you can see, everything is clear here.
And so, as Nitin is very rightly telling us, that this kind of a measure by the Delhi police is only speaking that this was something that was at the hindsight of the Delhi police, that once these protesters will be detained, because they're not ready to listen to us, they will clear the protest site. Nitin, you also spoke with the protesters. Swati was being scuffled. We saw Bajrang being whisked off in a car. We may, speak about the fact that they have broken law and order, but the visuals of it, the optics of it, do you see, these are very disturbing. They are our national champions. We've seen them awarded by the Prime Minister. Today they are on the roads being dragged.
Absolutely. See, I have covered all of these wrestlers for many times. I have seen them winning medals for the country, getting laurels for our country in Asian Games, Commonwealth Games, Olympic level. But looking at these pictures where police was dragging them to just put in the buses, in the cars, and just to detain them, this is not something which any sports journalist would like to see. This picture again, this was very disturbing for me because, they were demanding. They were saying that there are certain demands, arrest Bhushan Saran Singh, and they were always maintained a simple stand that police inquiry should be taken, he should be arrested. So, okay, it is something which needs to be taken care properly.
There was no remorse by Delhi police today.
Again, I would just say that there should be a proper kind of treatment to the wrestlers. They are our heroes, right? And I'm not getting into the that process that what Bhushan Saran Singh is saying, what wrestlers are saying. But looking at the higher picture, wrestlers are wrestlers. They have bring laurels to the country. Treat them properly. They are not any farmers. They are not any criminals. There should be a process. But again, the pictures I saw today was not really good.
As Nitin very pertinently put it forward, that these were not very, pictures that were not good. Wrestlers, they are heroes of the country. They should have been treated in a better manner. And if I still have Preeti, I'll just want to ask one question about the latest update that we're getting from Jantar Mantar. Preeti, if you can hear me. The protesters have been detained for sure, but now we hear that this Delhi police has actually cleared the protest site. They have cleared the enclosure where the protesters were sitting for the last 35 days. So do you really feel that this is something that was pre-planned, but definitely this is something that the protesters were not aware of? And while they were detained, their protest area has now been cleared. Preeti, what do you have to say about this?
That's a big question which the Delhi police would need to answer, because till now they were allowed to peacefully protest at the Jantar Mantar site. Now, does that mean that the removal of the scaffolding, the tents, the durries there, vacating the protest spot, does that mean that the protesters, in terms of the wrestlers, once they are released after detention, will not be allowed to come back in protest? That's a big question. That needs to be answered by the Delhi police, because then where do these wrestlers go? Because they have been protesting at Jantar Mantar over the last 35 days. So, what happens there? Is there a clear thought by the Delhi police? That, remains to be seen. That, okay, nothing now. We asked them, to stay put. They decided still to march to the newly inaugurated Parliament building to protest. Therefore, we have decided they will now not protest at Jantar Mantar. They were given special permission earlier. So what really comes of that remains to be seen. And if so, what is it that the wrestlers will do? Because, I'm quite sure that they will look at continuing their protest and following it through. Now, what happens if their protest site is vacated at Jantar Mantar? I'm sure, during the course of the day, at some point of time, they will be released. Usually what we see in terms of protocol, Shreya, and you know that, you've been following crime, that once the big event is over, once the day is gone, we would see them being released by the end of the evening, once everything has transpired peacefully. But yes, questions need to be asked of the Delhi police, and why is it that the protest site has been vacated? Does it mean that the protesters cannot come back? And if not, then what will the wrestlers do? That's the question now.
But this also, Preeti, is questionable, because what's the hurry? I mean, these protesters should have been released. They should have been alerted, because in no way that the action suggests that they've been detained is why they will not be allowed to protest in Jantar Mantar, because Jantar Mantar is a designated protesting area at a time when the protesters are not aware, when the wrestlers are not aware, they are detained. The kind of hurry that the Delhi police is showing, this is in fact something, to question that whether the Delhi police was planning this ahead, that if they will have to detain the protesters, they will simply just remove them and they will not be allowed to again protest over here. This is something that we are yet to get a clarity from Delhi police, but the visuals, Preeti, they clearly show a sort of hurry from the end of the Delhi police to vacate the entire area.
That is, what was the hurry to do so? Because now you've attained what you wanted to, which was detention. All the wrestlers have been detained. There hasn't been any protest outside the new parliament. The police has clamped down with a very, very heavy hand. But having said that, now what? You can't take away their protest from them, because, we are celebrating the temple of democracy, and it is their right to protest under the democratic process. So, what is it, the end game which the Delhi police is looking at? I doubt if they're not going to allow them to protest, because Jantar Mantar is a protest site. They might give them a different venue. They might say that, we asked you not to move. You have now, this is the venue that you can protest. It's, happened before in various protests. So it remains to be seen what the wrestlers do and what is the actual call of the Delhi police. Is it very clear that the protesters and the wrestlers cannot come back, or is it just reactionary right now?
Well, clearly, we'll have to wait some more time to get a clarity on what the Delhi police is, there on the mind. But clearly, the visuals that we continue to get from Jantar Mantar is something which is disturbing. We can see that the Delhi police has now cleared the area. We will take a quick question from Arvind Oja. He is our crime bureau chief. Sir, you can see that ये जो area है, ये पूरी तरीके से दिल्ली पुलिस ने evacuate कर दिया है. Detain करने के बाद ये पूरा प्रोटेस्ट एरिया इन्होंने इवैक्यूएट कर दिया है. क्या दिल्ली पुलिस को इसके बारे में प्रोटेस्टर्स से फ्लैग फेस करने को मिलेगा?
मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि कहीं ना कहीं दिल्ली पुलिस ने एक रणनीति के तहत ये सब कुछ किया, क्योंकि आप भी यहाँ मौजूद थी. ये बैरिकेड है, जरा दिखाइए मानसू, ये बैरिकेड है. और जिस तरह का सिक्योरिटी अरेंजमेंट था, ये मुमकिन नहीं था कि जो रेसलर थे या जो प्रोटेस्टर थे, 40 से 50 की संख्या होगी, वो बैरिकेड तोड़कर वापस चले जाएं. तो जैसे ही बैरिकेड तोड़कर प्रोटेस्टर और रेसलर वापस जाते हैं, उनको डिटेन कर लिया जाता है. पुलिस यहाँ पर पहुंचती है और पूरा प्रोटेस्ट साइट खाली करा दिया जाता है. अब इंटरेस्टिंग ये है कि क्या जो प्रोटेस्टर है वो दोबारा यहाँ पर पहुंच पाएंगे. तस्वीरें आप देख पा रही हैं, ऐसा बिल्कुल लगता नहीं है कि दोबारा से जो प्रोटेस्टर है वो यहाँ पर पहुंच पाएंगे, क्योंकि जो बजरंग पुनिया है, विनेश फोगाट है, साक्षी मलिक, उनको 144 सीआरपीसी यहाँ पर लगी हुई थी, उसका उल्लंघन किया, उनको डिटेन कर लिया गया. लेकिन जो तस्वीर है हिमांशु, एक बार आप फिर दिखाइए, जो प्रोटेस्ट साइट जहाँ पर जो टेंट लगा हुआ था वो हटा लिया गया. तो अब जो सबसे बड़ा सवाल यह है कि क्या दोबारा से वो इस प्रोटेस्ट साइट पर रेसलर पहुंच पाएंगे, क्या वो यहाँ पर धरना कर पाएंगे, क्योंकि ये जो पूरा सीन है आप देखिए, यहाँ पर जो पुलिसकर्मी है वो प्रोटेस्ट साइट पर मौजूद है. और अब पुलिस की जो रणनीति अब यही रहेगी कि पुलिस यहाँ पर मौजूद रहेगी, प्रोटेस्टर दोबारा कोशिश होगी यहाँ पर ना.
लेकिन जंतर मंतर डेजिग्नेटेड
प्रोटेस्ट एरिया है, लेकिन जिस तरह से पुलिस का कहना है कि यहाँ पर 144 इम्पोज्ड किया हुआ है, और जिस तरह से पिछले दिनों खासतौर से आज जो एक्शन हुआ, स्पेशल कमिश्नर दीपेंद्र पाठक ने वो बाकायदा इंडिया टुडे के आज तक के कैमरे पर ये कहा कि ये जो एक्ट हुआ है आज, ये देश विरोधी एक्ट है। तो बिल्कुल जो आज एक्ट हुआ होगा उस पर भी दिल्ली पुलिस FIR रजिस्टर करेगी। और फिलहाल कम से कम दिल्ली पुलिस की यही रणनीति है कि जो जिस तरह से यहाँ से टेंट हटाए गए जो प्रोटेस्ट साइट पर, उससे तो कम से कम यही लगता है कि दिल्ली पुलिस दोबारा किसी को यहाँ पर पहुँचने देने के या धरना प्रदर्शन करने के इजाजत देने के मूड में नहीं है।
So, you heard him say that clearly this is a part of a plan that was, taken forward by Delhi police. They allowed them to march forward, detain them, and at the backdrop of it, clear the entire protest site. We started the broadcast showing the restless protest, but right now the question lies that whether this protest in fact will at all continue, because the visuals that we see right now is of the entire area being cleared after the protesters are being detained. In all likelihood, the protest resuming is something which is questionable, and we will probably not see the wrestlers again returning to Jantar Mantar, but we'll have to wait and watch for the clarity is what we can clearly have to wait so far as the Delhi police's action is concerned.
फीमेल कॉन्स्टेबल्स
बहुत ज्यादा जबरदस्ती हुई है जी, आराम तो चलने लग रहे थे, जबरदस्ती की छुड़ाया गया है।
आप लोगों को उम्मीद थी इस तरह से होगा?
नहीं थी, हम सोचे शांतिपूर्वक जाएंगे, पर शांतिपूर्वक जाके आगे से धकाना शुरू कर दिया कि नहीं आओगे, गिरा दिया गया, मेरे सारे कपड़े पाड़ लिए, बहुत गंदा व्यवहार करा है। हम कोई भी इंसान नहीं करते, बिल्कुल चुपचाप जाने लग रहे थे आगे।
बाढ़ मारे नौसे लिए गए तो दरिंदा बैठा, उसने क्यों नहीं गिरफ्तार करते? आप लोग क्यों अपील नहीं करते?
साक्षी को उठा लिया है पुलिस प्रशासन ने, डिटेन कर लिया साक्षी को, और ऊपर से उसको पद्म श्री भी दे रखा है। पद्म श्री की गरिमा नहीं रखी लोगों ने, जो मेडल मिले हैं, जो मेडल मिले, जो अवार्ड मिले, उन्हें गरिमा नहीं।
अभी वेट करिए, अभी वेट सुनिए, सारी कानूनी कार्रवाई होगी। जाइए।
पहलवानों जो बैरिकेड तोड़े हैं, क्या कार्रवाई हो रही है?
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल, उसका आकलन होगा और कानूनी कार्रवाई होगी। चलिए।
Well, as we've been here reporting on the restless protest and the march call that they had given to the new parliament, now the question probably arises that whether at all the protesters will be allowed to return back to Jantar Mantar to protest over here, as their site is being vacated by the Delhi police. We saw what transpired through the entire day. A quick recap of that will suggest that they tried to move forward. They were being moved, and they stopped the barricades, and clearly after that we saw what transpired. They were dragged off, they were detained, and now as we talk we can see Delhi police trucks very swiftly taking away and vacating the entire protest area. One by one, Delhi police personnel are loading the things that were here at the protest site, and now it's being kept in the trucks by Delhi police where it is being vacated. And I'll go across again once to Preeti. Preeti, the action that we are seeing over here on the ground clearly suggests that the protesters in all likelihood will not be allowed to come back to Jantar Mantar, because here we are seeing Delhi police trucks where Delhi police personnel are offloading all the beddings that were kept over here for all the while as the restless protesters one by one. So this is something that the Delhi police is in clear hurry. They're trying to ensure that the protest area is cleared. So clearly, Preeti, at one side the Delhi police is yet to come up with clarity on what is the kind of action they are taking up against Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh, and on the other side we see that there is clear action against the protesters. A, they have been detained, and B, now their protest area has been cleared off, Preeti. Well, my cameraman got you those visuals from the ground. You could see those trucks where Delhi police is now one by one clearing the entire area. So clearly it's questionable that whether the protesters will again be allowed back to Jantar Mantar. We do not seem that to be happening, because as we talk, the wrestlers have been detained. They've been taken away by Delhi police. There will be action against them, because we heard Dipendra Pathak, who very categorically said that this was a Desh Virodhi Act, and accordingly the legal opinion will be taken and action will be taken. But while we speak about that, what is to be also kept in mind is the optics of the entire thing. At one side, we see Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh, against whom there are 7 women wrestlers complaining, moving around freely, and on the other side, we see the protesters, the complainants are being detained, they are being roughed up, their protest site is being vacated. This is definitely something that is bad optics so far as the entire scenario is concerned. But we cannot deny that the Delhi police has actually in fact acted in a very smart manner, taken the time when the protesters were detained to clear off the area. But whether the protesters will clearly cow down to the entire thing, we do not really see that happening, because even today when the Delhi police requested the protesters to not march forward, they were in no mood to listen. When we spoke with all of them, they clearly wanted to march forward to the new parliament. They did not want to stop here at Jantar Mantar. So as we speak and as we continue to get you the visuals from Jantar Mantar, the question arises on the action of the Delhi police, whether there could be some restraint that was shown by Delhi police while acting against the wrestlers. They are in fact our heroes. Whether Delhi police could have taken a better resort to ensure that the protesters could have listened to them. B, whether the wrestlers will now, they will probably use this entire scenario in favor of them and make their protest even more stronger. That is something that we'll have to wait and watch it for. The opposition also in all likelihood will use this entire scenario and rake up and against the centre. But clearly, a day when the new parliament is being inaugurated, a day when the entire country is also proud of a new parliament which emboldens and actually shows the new image, the new India that we constantly talk about these days. On the backdrop of that, we saw our wrestlers, our national heroes, those who got accolades for us, the Olympic medal winners being dragged by the capital's police, being roughed up. We saw Sakshi Malik, Bajrang Punia, Vinesh Fogart, all trying to march forward to the new parliament, and they were detained simultaneously. Clearly something that will have different questions whether they could have been avoided. Clearly while we have those visuals constantly running on the screen showing what transpired through the day, last update once again for our viewers who have just tuned in today at 11 in the morning, the protesters wanted to march forward and go to the new parliament where the entire ceremony, the inauguration ceremony, was under its way. They were first requested by Dipendra Pathak, the Special Commissioner Law and Order, Delhi Police, to not resort to anything untoward, and so that nothing really transpires in a wrong side. The protesters did not listen. They started moving out from the enclosed area. The Delhi police again entered into a dialogue with them. The DCP was present on the ground. The protesters were in no mood to listen to the Delhi police. They marched forward. They broke 3 barricades. We saw the likes of Vinesh Fogart. We saw the likes of Sakshi Malik. They jumped the barricades. Again, important to point out, it was difficult for the Delhi police to also contain them. These were athletes at their best physique, and Delhi police found it really difficult while they ran and marched forward. So while we talk about that, today in Jantar Mantar, at one side, our protesters were detained, roughed up by Delhi police as they tried to march to the new parliament. Question still remains whether the person against whom their entire protest stands will be seen in the new parliament. Will Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh be seen in the new parliament? Because that is something which will not give a very good, which will actually be bad optics. So we'll have to wait and watch for that. We'll continue to get those updates and visuals on the other side. For now, keep watching India Today.
ये सड़क खाली कराई जाए। तस्वीरें देखिए किस तरीके से विनेश और संगीता जो है करा रही हैं, चिल्ला रही हैं, लेकिन दिल्ली पुलिस की महिला जो जवान है वो उन्हें पूरी तरीके से यहाँ से उठाने के लिए कोशिश कर रही है। धक्का मुक्की, संगीता और विनेश इस वक्त जमीन पे गिर गए हैं।